Hello and welcome to What the Dog Podcast, where we talk about dogs, what they're doing, and why they're doing it. My name is Katie. I am a CPD TKA certified dog trainer and owner of For Pete's Sake Dog Training, here to give you short, sweet, and quick answers to your questions. Now, today we are going to be talking about why your dog doesn't listen. And this is something that I get from a lot of clients, that they're asking me either my dog's just not listening to me, they're very frustrated about it. Is their dog trying to be defiant? Are they being stubborn? Just anything. Most of the time, it's usually when they're using like come when called, especially coming from outside to inside. And there are a lot of things specifically with come when called that I've talked with my clients about as to why your dog's not listening, but that's actually not the case. So I want to dig into that a little bit. Your dog and their listening skills. First of all, dogs communicate with visual or body language way more than they communicate through listening. They make vocals, other dogs make vocals, so they do have communication that's involved with listening, but there's so much going on with their body language, way more than any vocals that they're using to communicate with other dogs. So that's one thing. Ears, really not their best sense of hearing. If you think about it too, when they communicate, they're usually communicating to other dogs. Now that they live with humans, they also need to communicate with humans or anything else that they interact with. That communication is not English. I don't know if you've realized it, but dogs do not speak English. So when we are teaching our dogs behaviors or just generally what we want, that communication is extremely hard to get clear and clarified with our dogs because English is not their first language. So we need to think about how we're communicating and how clear it is to our dog with what we are asking. Now, when we're thinking about something like come when called, this is where a lot of confusion happens. I've had it with myself, but I do see it with tons of clients that when I ask them to give me an example, they'll say, well, when I tell him to come here, he just doesn't. He's defying me. He's being stubborn and disobedient. So I will have them ask their dog, I'll have them send their dog outside because that's usually where it happens the most, and ask them to have their dog come inside to talk to their dog. I would say 9.8 times out of 10, the owners are saying multiple things. So I'm going to use Pete for an example. Pete, come here, come on, come inside, come on, let's go, come on, right? That was like 6 different things. I'm not going to count, you can go back and count, but 4 to 6 different things. When I teach come when called, most of the time when we're in training class, it's Pete, come, or come here, or here. It's very crisp, it's short, and we're not using those terms in everyday life with our dogs. And they're not coming to those because they weren't taught to. So that's one thing. So I challenge you, when you think your dog is not listening to you, what are you saying? What are you saying to them? And have you taught them a behavior to the exact words you're saying? So, it's very specific. Pete, come is different than Pete, come here, and Pete, let's go. Those are completely different. So I want you to think about how you're communicating that with your dog. The other thing is we're using come when called as well throughout the house. So you want your dog to get out of the kitchen and follow you into the living room, or you want them to come into the study. I don't know who has studies anymore, I have an office, but to get into their kennel or whatever it may be, to just follow you. They're not doing it. We're probably using words we haven't actually taught a behavior to. Humans talk a lot. It's our thing. Dogs don't. So 90% of the time while we're talking, it's just gibberish going in one ear, through their brain, and out the other, as I like to say. And they are listening for the words that they know. So if you've ever seen those cute videos, I say cute, on TikTok, Instagram, whatever it may be, where people pretend to be on the phone. They're like on the phone with grandma saying my dog's favorite words. And they'll be like, oh, I think we're going to come over and maybe we'll go to grandma's, and they say grandma's and the dog perks up. And they're like, and maybe then we'll walk around the park, right? Oh, don't forget to pack some treats for us. So saying all these words that dogs know and you see them perk up, that's a prime example that we said this long sentence of words that dogs don't know, but the one word they know, they listen to. They're like, oh, I know what that means, right? So we expect too much of our dogs and we haven't taught them enough. So that's generally why our dogs aren't, quote, listening to us, because they don't know. They don't know what we're saying. The other part of not listening is it goes with teaching dogs. We usually don't reinforce a behavior enough if they're not listening to it. So if you're like, my dog won't sit when I ask them to sit. When are you asking them to sit? Only when they get a nail trim and they don't like nail trims, then they're probably not going to sit, right? When are you asking them to go get in their kennel? When you leave them for 8 hours a day and they don't really like their kennel? No wonder they're not going to get into their kennel. It's not positively connected with anything. Speaking of kennel training, if that's something you're like, oh yeah, I have that problem, you need to revert back to some kennel training and your dog can be in the kennel. One of my favorite things to do for kennel training is you sit in the room with your dog while they're in the kennel and you're teaching them to relax in their kennel and you haven't left yet. So I can get into kennel training later, but we're not connecting the right emotion with our dogs with what we're teaching them is probably why they're, quote, not listening to us, like I said, or we haven't taught it before. So come when called, especially coming inside from outside. The outside world is awesome for a dog. There's sights, there's smells, there's so much going on. And then we ask them to leave that really exciting environment to come back inside for what? For us to be like, shut the door, walk, and do the rest of our thing. So sometimes I'm like, some of my clients that say, my dog has the best come when called to come inside. They're like, all I did was put a treat jar by the door, and every time they come inside, I give them a little cookie. There's nothing wrong with that. I think people get frustrated and they're like, yeah, but I always have to have a treat. So what? Like, so what is my opinion on that? You are asking a dog to stop dogging and to do something for you. That's a human thing that you want. They don't want it. You want it. So honestly, in a way, we're asking them to work for us, so we should pay them. You want money when you go to work? They want some kind of reward. I have clients who their dogs love attention so much that they say, dog, come. They come inside, they give pets for a couple minutes, and then they're on their way. And that dog comes inside every time. So every dog is different, but just know that in some situations, like there will be times when I'm talking to Pete and he's in the yard and I'm like, I don't know what the words I just said. I didn't teach him those words, so of course he's not doing what I ask. I didn't teach him those words. Or he's on a really, really good sniff and I'm talking to him and he's not looking up. I'm like, well, no wonder. I mean, he's got a good sniff, right? Now, I do have emergency words in play if I need him right here, right now. I have an online self-paced right now recall where it's an emergency recall. So if he's I've gotten him off of a coyote trail before with this recall. So if there are things happening where I'm like, I need you to get back to me right now, I have this in the back burner. I do not use come when called on emergencies because it gets overused all the time. And like I said, most of us aren't even using it properly. So that's something to kind of think about. But generally, when our dogs aren't listening to us, their brains are going either, don't know what they're saying, and it's just normal human gibberish, or they're literally saying, why? Why should I? Yeah, sorry, my brain went to a little bit of a mindset. So I'm going to go on a little bit of tangent here. I have a mindset that is different from a lot of people's mindset when it comes to the relationship they have with their dog. And it is different from what I would call an old school mindset. So a lot of people say my dog should just do what I say when I say it because they're my dog, I'm their owner. And dogs are not genetically programmed to think that way. Like, so I don't have that mindset of like, my dog should say what I say when I say it, right? I mean, think about like with kids, and that's something that adults tend to have because I said so mentality, and that's just unfair. Because I said so isn't a valid reason. If you were like, I need you to come inside and get away from the street because a car's about to hit you, got it, but your dogs don't understand that, right? So we we can't have that just because I said so. We do tend to have to use rewards a lot more than we do with kids. But to be honest, I mean, you can get a lot out of people with using rewards, but also it's a great concept to use where my relationship with my dog is based off of teaching him new things and using rewards to teach him new things. But I also have a very respectful relationship with my dog. I'm not going to think, you need to sit because I said so. I don't have that attitude. And if you are someone who has that, I strongly recommend that you listen to my next week's episode about alpha theory, is what we're going to dig into a little bit, because I do think that topic goes a long ways with this topic. So changing your mindset with your dog will definitely help in those frustrations when you think your dog is not listening to you. And that's my best, and honestly the best, but my best suggestion for you is to change your mindset. So I promise you, your dog's not being stubborn. Your dog is not being defiant. Your dog's not trying to be dominant by not listening to you. They either are questioning why should I get off this comfy couch? Why should I leave this really smelly atmosphere? Or they do not know what you're saying, because, hey, come on, boy, is not the same thing when you taught them dog come, right? That's different. So you need to make sure that you're speaking clearly and precise to your dogs when you talk to them. But yes, mindset is huge when it comes to dogs. And I have this awesome relationship with my dog Pete, where he does listen, quote, I did air quotes, anyone listening to this, he does listen to me majority of the time, because he wants to listen to me. He knows that there are good things to come when he listens. And again, I'm not using treats all the time, but I have no problem with rewarding dogs with treats either. So just everyone's up to their own opinion, but that's the mindset and the atmosphere I have with my dog. So yes. Thank you for listening. Another short episode, 13 minutes. Woo! But if you have questions, feel free to, I think you can comment. I know I set up polls every time for these. I don't really know how that works. I should probably look into that. I do have an email address. It's for Pete's sake, FUR, Pete's sake. Yes, there are 2 S's in there, 62@gmail.com. Or honestly, check out my website. You can fill out a contact us. You can schedule a free consultation call with me. I do private sessions in person and virtually. I do group classes. I have some virtual group classes that are starting. And then I'm in the Indianola, Iowa area. So if you're a Des Moines and surrounding area and want to talk to me, set up a free call. I will talk to you about things. But generally, if your dog's not listening, just think about, what are you asking them? Have you taught them that before? And what are you asking them to stop doing that's very dog-like? And that can be something as easily as them just relaxing and laying down. So thank you for joining me again today on this podcast. I hope you're having a great day, and I've answered some questions for you, and hope to see you around next time. So thanks.